Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Great to have you here today on episode 2553 of the Cabral Concept. The three big takeaways and all the show notes will be at stephencabral.com/2553. Today's going to be a bit of a fun show. It is on why you should be careful of diet gurus. I think this is really important because literally anyone with a phone can become a diet guru, telling you what they do, what you're supposed to do, and why something is literally the end all be all. We'll call it Bible. Like this is the thing. And I think we have to be careful with that. And it's specific people, I'm not going to name any names, but specific theories overall is more what I want to talk about. So that when you come to it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't believe it, but it means like you have to ask certain questions. And that's what I want you to think about here today. So today's going to be a bit of a fun show, but it's just, we have to understand that experts are different than gurus and gurus are different than experts. Okay, let me give you an example. I was doing a lot of research on longevity and anti-aging, the best of what we have right now. So for the past more than 10 years, I've been providing protocols really online, open sourced as to exactly what we do that we know works, like based on the research and based on clinical practice, like real world practice. Here's the CBO protocol for digestion. Here's the Equilife detox for functional medicine. Here's the Pro support protocol for parasites. This is for, like we just go through the line and you don't have to even use the products. We show you exactly what we do and we show you the ingredients and we open source that. So if people want to make it better in the future, fantastic, right? We're always trying to innovate. We're trying to help the field. And so for sure, we've got a lot of data and we know it works, and let's just say, include us in the expert category or not, that doesn't matter to me. But when I'm looking at longevity and anti-aging, I'm looking at the experts and I'm saying, what are they saying? So I'm looking at Dr. Horvath and the Horvath clock. I'm looking at David Sinclair. I'm looking at Dr. Nair, Dr. Vonsberg. I've read a bunch of books. Plus, I've read their research before in the past. But I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. And what I always say is that when you read enough of the experts, success leaves clues. So you don't typically read one person. You can, like if you believe that person and they're a reputable source, then yes. Like when I was coming up, there were doctors that I'm like, oh, this is a great source. Like I'm absolutely all in with this person. Now, I will still read and listen to other things, but I believe in this person. And so that worked for me and it works for a lot of other people. But what I like to do is I like to keep an open mind and I like to stay skeptical. So I read 6 books, like 6 big books on longevity and anti-aging and everything that we know to date from PhDs, researchers and scientists that are in the lab doing the things that, practitioners are seeing work in practice, but they're doing things that they're experimenting on that may work in the future as well. So I'm going through all that data and I'm saying, wow, like very similar. There's one book that was not as good. It wasn't by a researcher. I'm not going to name the book, but they were saying things like wear sunscreen. I'm like, well, this person hasn't looked into sunscreen and doesn't know that the ingredients in sunscreen are permeable, like so your skin's permeable, and you can absorb those ingredients, most of which are toxic, unless you're getting a non-toxic sunscreen. Now, I'm not recommending you get a sunburn, right? I'm not recommending that, but I'm also recommending you get some sun to raise your vitamin D naturally, right? Not everybody can because they're not outside during the day, and not everybody lives in Florida all year long, right? So you're not going to get your vitamin D. So here's the thing, though: all these people recommended basically the same thing: caloric restriction, mainly plant-based diet, this, that, like they all recommended that. Now you might say, well, why are all the experts really in agreement? Now they might have like fundamental differences. I've talked about that before. I've talked about that on my Paleo versus Vegan podcast. That was an old one. If you want to listen to that, we'll try to link that up for you here today. I think you'll find that fascinating. But here's the thing, because there's so little difference, right? There's so little difference among all the experts. It's like, oh, one person might recommend this supplement or this food and the other person doesn't. But like 90% of it is all the same. So that's what I look for. And that's really what I recommend, because we know these things work because we can also see them. We run so many labs, hundreds of thousands of labs, that we can see the data, the before and afters. So here's what I'm sharing with you. An expert goes by the data of what is actually working, continues to question the science, get better, improve, use the entire empirical method. Like they're going through this. This is rigorous. Whereas a guru, they read some work And then they state that online as the end all be all without knowing the deeper levels of science behind it. And I'm going to give you some caveats. So just before we get started, I'm going to give you three today, like three big ones today. I think that you have to be really careful for when looking at this, is that a lot of times though, when on new science, people are divided. Right? Like I'm not going to get into the debate back and forth, but there are scientists who believe that there is global warming caused by humans, and there are scientists who don't believe the global warming is caused by scientists and don't even believe that there's global warming, right? So there's two sides, and they're both scientists, and they debate. This is fairly new. There will always be debates on that. Okay, there were scientists during the pandemic who believed that this was the best way to go about things and that it was perfectly safe. And then there were scientists who said, no, we don't have enough data and it looks like it may not be safe in the future, not just the short term, right? Scientists were on both sides of the debate. And a lot of people were on that too, and that was like 50-50. That's a divide. That's a debate, and that's questioning. That's okay. I mean, I think that there's no issue with that, and a good debate and really rigorous science and putting things to the test will ultimately prove these things out. What I'm worried about, and the whole reason I'm doing this podcast here today, is the fringe. I'm worried about people listening to the fringe. So let me share with you one of those things. Here's an example. Only eating meat. I've done a podcast called The Mounting Evidence Against Meat. Now, again, I eat meat, so I'm just I always have to say that. Like, I'm not vegan. I have no issues with that if you want to be. I'm not. But we'd be careful with the fringe. The fringe is I'm only going to eat meat. Now, I've done many podcasts as to why someone may get results just eating meat. And yes, there are short-term benefits, right? If you have inflammatory issues, gut-based issues, microbiome, bacterial-based overgrowth, you're not eating anything that's going to be fermentable. So I get it, but there's underlying root causes as to why you feel better. You lose weight. Sure, you probably will lose weight for the whole reason why, again, you're on a lower carbohydrate diet, you're better stabling blood sugar, maybe to a degree, depends on how much inflammatory based meats you're eating, like is it grass-fed, non-grass-fed, omega-6s, which create inflammatory prostaglandins and all this. Like again, we're just saying like, oh, well, this person got this and this person eats this way, they lost body fat, they're feeling better, keep on doing this. That is scary. That's the fringe, and that is one of the best ways. Again, I'm not stating this as the research. I'm sharing with you the research. Every single one of those longevity-based experts, the experts in their field say, based on all the data we have right now, there is no population in the world that has 100-year-old members of that society with any regularity that were on anything other than a diet with less than 20% protein. Most likely they had around 10% protein. And yes, all of them did have some meat or fish in their diet. They all did. No doubt about that. And I'm not saying that at all. So I think that's really important to state. However, 0 of them are on an all-meat diet. There are a few tribes actually, and we'll just say tribes, that are on a predominantly animal-based diet, meaning like blood from an animal, milk, some meat, and their life expectancy is the mid-60s, okay? It's around 66, 67 years old. So again, I'm just stating that because you can live 60 plus years on a predominantly meat-based diet. So it's not that you can't, right? And modern medicine might be able to keep you alive even longer. So I'm not saying that, like you can do it, but like let's not confuse short-term body transformation results in feelings with longevity, because all the stats show that if you raise IGF-1 levels, if you do not balance mTOR and AMPK, you're not going to do that on an all-meat diet unless you are literally fasting for the entire day and having one meal. And then at that, you're going to be micronutrient deficient, because if you're eating these all-meat diets, and a lot of them even saying eat a lot of organ meat, you could end it with toxic levels of vitamin A. I have nothing against eating organ meat. Eating it every day, a half a pound a day, probably not a great idea, right? And that's because you're looking at getting overdose of, again, fat-soluble vitamin like vitamin A, but also you are missing some of the other vitamins. You're also missing anything that would feed the gut microbiome. Really important to look at this. And you need strong digestion, hydrochloric acid production, etc. So I would be very cautious, again, following that diet. And that diet is on the fringe. I'll tell you right now, there is no fringe-based diet that we've ever seen that's like way out there, like extreme. That's an extreme that has ever been proven to be the healthy diet. There just isn't. Like there's no extreme that's ever been shown. Now, for a short-term intervention or medical-based intervention, sure, like no doubt about it. I've talked about it before. A keto-based diet for a short period of time. It's called cyclical. I've been talking about this for years. We've been doing this since literally 2001. And that's only for 3 weeks. And it's a very low carb diet, veggies only. And it's with protein and healthy fats. We've been doing this forever and it worked. Before anybody said the word ketosis, right? And again, we didn't make it up. I mean, I learned that from previous mentors and teachers and instructors, and I saw our work in the bodybuilding world. But you don't want to be doing that long term, right? We know the data from that. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. But again, that's on the fringe. So what do all the longevity books, all the health books say? It's a balanced diet. It's not eating all the breads and processed foods. No, it's a whole food, predominantly whole food diet. And you're getting your 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Don't want to eat fruit? That's okay. More veggies, right? Don't want to eat any root vegetables or starch? That's okay. More veggies, more regular vegetables. So I think that's important to look at that because again, when you're talking about, oh, body transformation results, oh, fat loss, look at me, with my shirt off, all these different types of things. I don't know that that's what's best for the world, right? Is it what's best for you, building you up online, or is it what's best for the world? And I think that if you're a practitioner, you can't do what's best for you. You need to do what's best for the world, for all the people out there. All right? All right, the second one is this. There's a lot of people out there saying that you shouldn't use any nutritional supplements and you should just get everything from food. I used to believe that as well. I think that would be amazing. That would be absolutely fantastic. And you don't even have to use a lot of nutritional supplements. I don't believe that either. And I don't even believe in mega dosing except for like certain instances that you want to use a nutritional supplement versus some type of pharmaceutical, right? Just to get the body back in a balance. But here's the thing. Someone was saying the other day on a post, you should never use vitamin D3. Okay, it's toxic. First of all, again, I think they're confusing that with vitamin D2. Second is that they don't, that's why I go through these. I do actually screen flow videos. Like I share my screen with you and I show you how the sun, vitamin D from the sun, D3 from the sun, converts in the body, right? The skin to the liver to be usable vitamin D3, right? And I go through all of that and I share with you how vitamin D3, a good quality nutritional supplement, a functional medicine brand, does the same thing. Do you want in mega dosages? No, that's what I talk about. In conventional medicine, they'll give people 50,000 IUs once a week instead of doing 2,000 to 4,000 IUs once a day. They're like, no big deal. It adds up to basically be the same thing and you get even more with the 50,000. No, you don't want that. Studies show when you take 100,000 IUs, 200,000, 300,000 IUs, it draws more calcium into the bloodstream, into the arteries, can cause hardening of the arteries. Yes, of course, because that's how you wouldn't get it from nature, right? You would never get it that way. You would get what? You'd get about 5 to 10,000 IUs a day from nature, from the sun, full body tan. Most people aren't getting a tan because they're worried about wrinkles and fine lines and aging of the skin, and they're worried about melanoma and cancer, and I get it, I understand. So the thing is, though, you can't have low vitamin D, because if you have low vitamin D, you have a weakened immune system. If you have low vitamin D, you're more prone to depression. If you have low vitamin D, you get weaker bones, more apt to breaking bones during the fall. You have a lower metabolism. You have lower hormones. So you can't have low vitamin D. Right? So if you're not going to get it from the sun, you can't, all people saying you can get it from food, you can't get adequate vitamin D from food. It's almost impossible. Again, we've been running this in practice now for a long, long time. It is nearly impossible to get adequate vitamin D from food. You can take cod liver oil, you can take whatever you like, but by the way, cod liver oil is a supplement. So all the people out there saying, you can get your vitamin D from cod liver oil, it's a supplement, right? So you're kind of like proving my point. Take cod liver oil if you'd like. It's still a lower dosage of vitamin D. But anyway, you can take that if you want. You just take more of it, right? But it's still a supplement. So if someone doesn't live, like I said, in southern Florida during the winter, or for 6 to 8 months of the year, how are they getting optimized vitamin D? Really important to ask that question. So what do you want people to do? You don't want them to take vitamin D3 for a supplement, but they're going to have then low vitamin D3, and they're more prone to every single form of mortality. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular risk, right? So that to me doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Again, if our job is to help people, we have to be able to help people. And also, people in Florida aren't always outside getting a tan. So if you're not outside getting a tan more days than not per week, you're not gonna have optimized vitamin D. So I think we have to be a little careful with the fringe beliefs that you can just get all of your vitamins and minerals from eating sourdough bread and drinking raw milk. I think that, again, that would be nice, right? And I believe that too in my early 20s, and it prevented me from getting well for many, many years. So I just try to share with you that, sure, you can drink raw milk. Like, I don't have an issue with that, right? If you don't have any cow's milk sensitivities and you're getting it raw and it's clean and all that, great. Don't have an issue with that. But that has nothing to do with the other benefits from being truly integrative, meaning like, yes, you can eat good quality whole foods and that should make up the bulk of your diet, but you can also get benefit from nutritional supplements. It doesn't have to be an only, right? It can be an and as well. Really, really important. All right, one more I wanted to share with you is the whole plants is toxic. Again, this is fringe as well. Okay, so you see people online posting, you should never eat plants. They're toxic to your digestive system. Okay, again, whenever I see that, I'm like, I get it. I understand. I was there once as well. You know, this is like outside of the onion. Someone said that plants are toxin. They see this doctor quoting lectins, salicylates, phytic acid, et cetera, and they're like, these things hurt your digestive system. They show a study, and you have to understand that, again, this is outside of the onion, basic to like scientific study. And then when you go deeper, you say, oh, this is interesting. Phytic acid helps fight colon cancer. Phytic acid, the actual blockage of certain vitamins and minerals when eating that food is like 10% up to 30%. And then there's benefits like outside of that. Now, am I saying you should consume a lot of phytic acid? No, I'm not. But even things like oxalates, your body can handle those when it has enough magnesium, vitamin B6, natural forms of vitamin C, like all these things it's able to do. Do you want to overload on certain types? No, I don't think that you should. But to say plants are toxic goes against like all of the real scientific research. All of the longest lived people ate a predominantly plant-based diets. We as humans have a 26-foot digestive tract. A carnivore has typically a 5 to 6 foot digestive tract. And that is because they don't eat things that are fermentable. Anyone that has a digestive tract that's that long is meant to eat foods that are fermentable, that they can easily break down over that time. Now, should you only eat lettuce and grass? No, because if we did that, we would basically have all molars and we would have multiple stomachs and a rumen. So again, if we look at deeper levels of biology, we can start to see that if we lived in nature and we had no weapons and we only had these two hands and a couple and these fingernails right here, right? What would we be able to most predominantly eat? And we'd be living in warmer climates because millions of years ago when we didn't have these beautiful heated and air-conditioned homes, we'd be living closer to the sun. Yes, there were people who lived in the ice and all that, no doubt about it. They didn't fare as well. Humans do much better in warm climates. That's really well shown. Part of it's vitamin D. And so when you look at those things, what foods would grow in those environments? Well, they would grow fruits and vegetables very, very easily. And so again, I think we also have to understand is like there's only one anti-cancer diet. The only diet that's ever been shown at all to reduce cancer is a diet high in brightly colored produce, fruits and vegetables. Like that, it's the only one. No all meat diet has ever been shown to decrease cancer. There's no study showing that, but there are lots of studies showing that olives and avocados and fruits and vegetables, all these things can help to prevent cancer. So, and again, if you have bloating and gas and all these things from eating plant-based foods, I get it and I understand. I was there myself. I had candida overgrowth, I had H. pylori, and I had SIBO. But once you correct those things and you heal and seal that gut, you're able then to slowly reintroduce the foods that humans were meant to eat. And so again, these are just things that I want to be able to share with people. I don't want to put anyone else down, but as a health community, and I know there's a lot of IHPs listening to this, we need to get out the actual information that is there to serve people. Hopefully everything I shared with you today, there was nothing promoting anything to do with my practice or even any other person's practice. It's like just understanding that if someone is preaching a fringe-based view that pretty much them and just a few hundred other people or thousands of people, whatever it might be, but not like the mainstream experts are recommending, it doesn't mean that they're wrong, but it means that most likely they are in the long run, right? Because there's very few instances that the fringe has ever been right. Like it's just so unlikely that, only eating raw liver every day, right? Or raw meat every day or meat every day is going to be the answer, right? It's like we've lived quite a bit of time here as humans. We've experimented with a lot of different things. We know what herbs work. We know what herbs they work for. We know what vitamins work. We know what minerals they do, right? We know a lot of these things. Do we know everything? No, not by a long shot. But people have experimented with these types of diets and these types of things for a long, long time. So in terms of diet, again, I'm going to share with you more and more in the future. But again, the foundation of all diets, I link back. I'm going to link up that podcast for you today because it's completely unbiased. Like it's literally, this is what's shown out of all the labs and all the studies that have ever been done. There's a foundation for all diets that humans should follow. Now, temporary, you might not work for you. I get it and I understand, right? Because of bioindividuality and your underlying imbalances. Let's fix those, right? Because it's teaching you, it's sharing you. Your body's showing you these symptoms. And if you fix the symptoms, well, then you start to then be able to move towards a better overall, healthier, longevity-based diet. So hopefully this was helpful. All the links today will be at stephencabral.com/2553. I know a bit of a more of a controversial show. I'm not talking about anyone in particular whatsoever, literally don't have a name in mind. I just want to share with you as you start to come along these things saying, this is always bad, only do this. Be very careful of those gurus preaching that information. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Have an amazing day.